Pricing a rental property in Roatan, Honduras. It's going to be very, very similar to pricing a home in Roatan, Honduras, and it takes expertise of someone that knows the island and knows the nuances to it. Even though it's a very little island and we have an MLS, we have all of the data. Realtors are really great for these things, as well as property managers. There are property managers all over the island. Me personally, I like to go with the ones that know a little bit more about valuations of homes, how much homes cost. They can rattle off square foots, all of that data that has been in my head for 15 years. It's can be a little bit of a finesse game, just like going outside, picking up a golf club, trying to hit. You're probably not going to be PGA ready, but hey, sometimes you can hit a good one, but it takes a lot of finesse and a lot of local knowledge that is just not as available online like in the United States, where we have economy of scale. You have Zillow, Realtor.com, those things. In Roatan, we do have an MLS, but a lot of that information is only available to realtors. If you listen to my videos, I don't actually like that gatekeeping. I think the information should be available to everyone, but we don't have the Zillows, the Realtor.coms, Redfin, like all of those things. We don't have them down here. So there is a limited amount of information that is publicly available. So it takes a lot of local knowledge. Me being on the island for 15 years, I've gotten to see a lot. I just have a lot more tacit knowledge than someone looking on the internet, which is very, very limited in the data. However, you can still do it. I highly suggest using a realtor. Even the realtor, there are a lot of property managers, and I'd say the fees, they're all pretty common or comparable. I'll use the word comparable here. Usually 15 to 30%, which is very similar to what property management companies charge in the United States and Canada. So it's really up to you if you decide to use them. The big part is pricing, their pricing strategy, and their marketing. Marketing can be a little bit more difficult and nuanced, as it is a little island, and the rules that work back in North America, they do to a certain degree work here, but they're not the same, and it takes some tweaking to make them work. So there's lots of similarities, and I say that all the time. It's just takes a little bit more local knowledge to tweak it so it will work for Roatan, Honduras, or La Ceiba, or not La Ceiba, Utila, little areas that do not have economies of scale. Prices just work different. Supply and demand, it works differently. Just because there's so many less properties, there's also so many less people looking. So you really want to get the eyes on your property, and that will highly dictate the price you have to pay, and then also your relationships. It's still very relationship driven down here. So who you know, who you work with, and you're getting those personal local relationships are also going to really help with your rental and pricing your rental out. And it takes probably 2 to 3 years to really get a rental going in Roatan. So if you're looking at, Airbnb and Verbo, those are the two biggest that I do look at. And my properties, I have had them listed on those sites at various times. They have great pricing analytic tools, but I use those, and I think they're better than the MLS personally. They're a little bit more up to date, but part of that is the local and the personal nature of some of those listings, and the personal relationships you start to build with people renting your property. So it's not going to be apples to apples, even though you're looking at a house that, hey, looks just like my house. But that house might have been on the rental market for 5 years, and so you have 5 years worth of customers. And in Roatan, we have a lot of repeat customers that come every year, and so that will drastically affect your rental price. And it's really hard to articulate until you start running your property, and I would say it's going to take a good 3 years to get your property really up and going. High season is somewhat short. It's from US Thanksgiving or Christmas all the way through Semana Santa, which is Easter week, Holy Week in Roatan, Honduras. And then it goes to mid and low season is basically the September through the beginning part of November. So, and your prices are going to swing, and they're going to swing by probably, I mean, it can swing to over 50%, 70, 60, 70%. And your occupancy is also going to be highly affected during those times. And it will take 10 years to get that occupancy rate, or not, 3 years to get that occupancy rate up. I personally anticipate a third occupancy or even a quarter occupancy with my units when I first put them on the market. I also consider long-term. A lot of people don't want to consider long-term rentals here just because they get so much less money they get about the same as a weekly rate, and everyone wants to focus so much on that weekly rate. It needs to be kind of back up a little bit, run some P&L. I have lots of roosters near me, and who I usually like, but there's a lot of them now, and they like to do that all the time. But so back to the rental pricing, it takes a minute to get the rental up and going. I anticipate 3 years. You can look at Airbnb, Vrbo, all of those, but keep in mind a lot of those units that have been on the market for years and years, they have repeat customers, and that's really where the money is. That's when you start to make money on your rental or your personal home that you're only here, a month or 2 months, however long. You rent it out the rest of the year, and it depends on when you're renting it too, because we have high seasonality to the rentals. So you might want to consider, short and long-term numbers and looking at over a year period instead of just that 1 week high season. I got this one time, I'm going to do this forever. And you're going to notice that your property sits vacant for a while, and that's the most common mistake I see people make. They hyper focus on the high season 1 week price, Christmas week price, or Semana Santa week price, and be like, that's what I need to get, that's what I'm owed, that's what I deserve. It's going to lead to a world of problems and a very, very bad rental season for you until you get to see past those initial 2 high weeks. So it is a little bit of a delicate balance, and it takes patience, which, well, as an American, I don't know what that is. It took me a very, very long time to learn that living in Roatan, Honduras.